If I look at this experience of applying the Blue Ocean Shift strategy, it's changed my life. It's made me a very successful president. And it's proven to me that this is really what the world needs and what the educational system needs. Next year, I'm retiring. And after my retirement, because I think I've already met my goals with UPB, I'd like to dedicate my life to promoting Blue Ocean Shift strategies in education. And as I did it in Bolivia, it was a very special case, but I can see how this applies to different areas of education. And we're just touching the tip of the iceberg. This is much more important than just solving a problem at UPB. Education has not changed much in the last 100 years. And I think it's about time we start looking, and this is what I want to dedicate my life in the next few years, of new forms of applying Blue Ocean strategy to education. Because the future of humanity depends on our educational systems. And if our educational systems do not seek for new blue oceans, then we're not doing our job. The situation at the university was critical because the finances depended on a number of students, and the students stopped going. At the same time, we had problems with the forecasts for the Bolivian economy, which prevented from parents also spending their money on education for their children. And the board of directors asked me to solve this problem and to make UPB a reputable institution. I could use two strategies. On the one hand, continue doing what we were doing, which was competing in the red ocean, trying to lower prices, compete with the other private universities. Or I had to try to do something very different. Try to swim out of that red ocean and look for new answers. Once we decided to swim out of the red ocean, especially opening up a new campus in the city of La Paz, at least half of the members of my board of directors opposed that for diverse reasons. Some of them had to do with local pride. The university was in Cochabamba, it should not go abroad. And then everybody kept saying, this is a crazy idea, you're going to go to La Paz, and there's a prestigious Catholic university. What are you going to offer that they don't offer? And that's when we started thinking how we can add value to our offer there. And we did that by, for instance, being very strict with our entrance examinations, very strict in how we hire our professors with masters and PhDs. And also we require English as a prerequisite for graduation, which would be something that nobody else was doing. That again was creating value, and we were able to convince people in La Paz, as it turned out in the long run, that that was the way to go. On the other hand, our second strategy was to open up the Masters in Business Administration on a full-time basis in Bolivia. And the answer was, that's impossible. Bolivian students will not leave their jobs to get a master's. People don't know the UPB. If they want to do a master's full-time, they'll go abroad. But at the time, I believed that that was an alternative, and I convinced my team. And in spite of all the negative feedback that we were getting, we went ahead, and that's, again, another of our success stories. It's fundamental, for instance, the bond, the relationship I had with the president of the board. If as CEO I did not have the total support of him, I would not have been able to do this. I had to have the support of him, and then I had to get the support of all the people that worked for me. They had faith in me. I had a good background, and I had experience in educational systems, and they also were kind of hopeless before. So I offered them hope, and they followed me, and we were successful together, because they knew that the university's success was going to be their own success. Since we made the blue ocean shift, our finances changed totally. We had losses, and now we have a 10% return. We had lack of liquidity. Now our liquidity indicators are positive. We were in debt, and we are right now have a good leverage position. So our finances are good, but the most important thing is that our School of Business right now is ranked number 22 on the top Latin American business in Latin America. And considering that this was 20 years ago, we didn't have one. And right now we rank, especially we rank high on our number of PhDs teaching. On academic strength, we're number 10th in the region. That means where our professors got their PhDs, and we're also doing very well on the publications. Our professors are publishing in the best journals. The blue ocean shift meant everything to us. Well, first, we have to follow the 5 steps. Define what the problem is, know exactly where we are, and second, what areas we're going to touch. In the book, usually you mention atomization. You cannot do everything at once, so we take 2 areas. One area was what was happening with undergraduate programs, and the other one was the MBA program. We concentrated on those 2. The team was motivated. They believed that we could do it, and that was key to success. If you don't convince, if they're not totally convinced about what we're doing, you're not going to make it. And if they feel a hint of doubt in the mind of the leader, they're not going to follow it. So the leader has to be totally convinced that you want to make the shift, and they have to believe you. Another of the things we had to create was a new campus, so we can have more students, and those students should contribute to cover our fixed costs. Our university was set up to handle about 1,500 students, and we only had 800 in Cochabamba. So if we wanted to increase the number of students, we had to go to the new campus. But what we couldn't do was to increase costs in the new campus. So we used returns to scope, and all the services were centered in Cochabamba, and only variable costs went to the went to La Paz. We knew we wanted to be a research-oriented university because that would add value. University must create knowledge as well as transmit knowledge, and that would give us a reputation. But how do you start that? When you live in an underdeveloped country, there's no help from industry, there's no help from government, and we have to think, again, a new blue ocean, how to do that. And the way we thought about it is we set up a consulting firm that was a for-profit, and every cent that came out, and it was a profitable one, went to cover research fixed costs. In other words, that covered the salaries of our researchers, and we started with 2 or 3 research centers, and now we have 10. Once the research centers started going and started getting experience, then money came from the Inter-American Development Bank, from World Bank, and from different other entities. The most important thing is that you have to believe as a leader what is needed. And you have to be absolutely convinced there cannot be any doubt in your mind. So I transmitted that to my team, and they believed me. They believed that we could go up through mountains if that was needed. And that was extremely important to do. If you don't have that, it's impossible to do the shift. The key tool we found was the strategy canvas. That allowed us to look at where we would be, because where we were at the time, we didn't have it, compared to the other schools. We knew we had a disadvantage because of the other ones were compatible with working hours, they were cheaper, they didn't have very high entrance requirements. But we knew that on the other factors of better professors with PhDs, a better methodology, we used the case methodology exclusively for teaching. We had all our professors trained in case methodology, and those things more than compensated the things that we were, and we could see that in just one glance at the canvas. To change our situation, it would have been impossible without applying the blue ocean shift strategy. It would have been impossible because we would have continued competing in a red ocean, and we would have never been able to get out. As we follow the path described in the book of how to get out of the red ocean to the blue ocean, the 5 steps, which we did, we were able to succeed. They've done very well. They've done very well. There's 20% of them have their own firms. They started their own businesses. And some of them went overseas and went to get PhDs. And most of them are going up very fast in the private firms in Bolivia.